Hi, welcome. My name is Andrea Walters, and I am teaching Principles of Macroeconomics. And I just wanted to give you a little introduction to how the class is going to go, what to expect, just because it can be hard to get things started and get a sense of things, and I don't want you to waste any time this semester as you move through this material. So, we'll be going through the basic principles of macroeconomics. We'll talk about what that means. Basically, it's the big view, looking at the national problems that economists try to manage. We'll be using the OpenStax textbook. This is the physical version. There's a hardcover version. There's also a digital version. This one I think was about $30 on Amazon, or you can buy it from OpenStax. But you can also always get the digital version for free. So that's a great resource because, first of all, you can access it anywhere that you have internet, and it's really one of the most affordable textbooks on the market. So that's the point. The class will be organized on Canvas through modules, and so it's going to try to make it really clear to go step by step through the materials. There will be lecture videos very similar to this one, PowerPoint slides, links to the online reading, concept check videos. Sometimes I'll do extra bonus videos where I go through an example. A lot of these problems make sense if you do multiple numerical examples together, especially with the graphing stuff. So I try to give you the opportunity to do that as much as you like. I'll try to post everything that I generate on both Canvas and YouTube to make it as accessible as possible. And every chapter is going to have assignments. Usually there's going to be some Canvas quizzes. There might be some terms to define, or a discussion problem, or essay questions, those kinds of things. And then there'll be Canvas exams, which are just going to be timed one chance, not multiple iterations, multiple choice exams on Canvas, and a final project. And all that's going to be explained in detail in Canvas, and you can always message me and let me know. You can message me through Canvas Messenger, through my email. I usually have office hours both online on Zoom and in person, and if you're not sure about when those are, check the syllabus or just shoot me a message and say, hey, when can I set up a time to ask you a bunch of questions? Because that's what I'm here for. The other thing I wanted to do, so basically you have a lot of resources on Canvas. There's going to be a ton of material, and I'll try to organize it clearly, but please let me know if anything ever gets mixed up or is confusing, because that happens a lot, and I don't always see things the exact same way you do. So all this information is going to be in Canvas and on the syllabus, but I wanted to clarify you don't have to buy the textbook if you're okay with a digital textbook. I like a hard copy, and I obviously use it a lot, so that's my choice. There's multiple editions. The edition online is constantly being updated. Obviously, you can't constantly update the print edition, so that's part of your decision-making process. And then the other thing that's going to be interesting, we will have the class organized in modules based on how quickly we're able to move through the material, whether it's a 6-week course, 8-week course, 16-week course, that kind of thing. But the chapters don't go in order. We bounce around a little bit, and I kind of get confused sometimes. So I wanted to give you an overview of what to expect in terms of the order we're going to go in also. Because if I find it confusing, there's a chance that you might also. So this is the first couple of chapters here. We'll start out pretty straightforward. Chapter 1 is going to be an introduction to economics, welcome to econ, talking about what economists do, what economics is, the difference between micro and macro. Boop. Chapter 2, choice in a world of scarcity. We really dive into that concept of scarcity, what it means, and how economists use it. Then we talk about the most basic model that economists use. We'll talk about the production possibilities frontier here, but then in the second and the third chapter, we'll talk about the model of supply and demand. Even though that tends to be a macro model, it is the basis for and can be the foundation of a lot of other models, and so it's really useful to have a sense of that before we move on. We'll talk about labor markets and financial markets, which can lead us into macro concepts like unemployment and inflation. And then we'll start to dive into the macroeconomic perspective. And that's where we'll jump from chapter 4 to chapter 6. We're not going to do chapter 5. Don't worry about it. Chapter 7, we'll talk about economic growth, which is a big macro concept. Then we'll go to chapter 8, unemployment. Chapter 9, inflation. And then we're going to jump all the way ahead to international trade to take us from the one country perspective to the multiple country international perspective. That'll be chapter 9, then chapter 20. After chapter 20, we jump back up to chapter 10 to talk about international trade and capital flows. And then to build on that discussion of capital flows, we'll go to chapter 16 to talk about exchange rates and capital flows. Then back to 11 to talk about aggregate demand and aggregate supply, which is going to be when we take our model of supply and demand and grow it to the macro economy and really make it make sense in that sense and really build on everything we've learned so far. And then we'll talk about the two different perspectives on how the macroeconomy functions. The Keynesian perspective first in chapter 12 and the neoclassical view next in chapter 13. But I'm not done. Hold on. After we do chapter 12, the Keynesian perspective, and chapter 13, the neoclassical perspective, we'll move on to chapter 17, jump down to 17, right, which is government budgets and fiscal policy, which is going to help us understand how the government can engage in alterations in the economy, how the government can try to help speed the economy up or slow it down depending on what our goals are and what's going on. And then money and banking, chapter 14, which is going to tell us a little bit more about how money supply works and how banks function and how fractional reserve banking works in the United States. And then we'll wrap things up with our last chapter, chapter 15, monetary policy and fiscal policy, which will take these two chapters and help us understand the two main venues for altering the macroeconomy. And it's going to all build on this model of aggregate demand and aggregate supply and these ideas about how do we get our economy the way we want it to be in terms of unemployment rate, economic growth, and inflation. So that's our big plan. Even though we're going to bounce around, it will all be in order in Canvas. All your assignments will be in order. I just don't want anyone to go plowing through the textbook and all of a sudden realize, oh wait, we skipped chapter 5, we skipped chapter 18, we jumped around. So now you know we're going to jump around. And so if you ever have any questions, check out Canvas, check out the syllabus, or shoot me a message. Otherwise, I'll see you either on the videos, in a Zoom, in email, or in person. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.